first official marathon race I ever ran, I broke 3 hours. I ran it in 2:58:45. And I have a really weird, interesting intro to running where I kind of ran because of this girl I was dating, and then we broke up and I stopped, and then my mom suggested I try to half again a couple years later, and I didn't do any training. I ran in shoes with holes in it, and I was able to set a PR for me at that time. I think it was 140 or 150. I can't remember. And then I was like, well, what could I do if I really invested a lot and almost everything into running, focusing on nutrition and training and strength and just mindset and learning and fueling, all of that stuff. And so I was a little bit of a psycho, and after that half marathon thought, well, I bet I could do a 100-mile race. So I picked a 100-mile race that was like 8, 9 months later, and I started training. I only made it 66 miles, but then the next year I was able to finish the 100-miler. So I went back to the same one. And I had to run longer than 26.2 miles throughout training to be able to do that, but I never ran an actual sanctioned race. And so after that 100-miler, I was ready to like race a marathon. And it was really cool because mentally I was like, well, I've done 100 miles, like 26.2 is pretty much a quarter of that. So I can do that. But then, of course, I had to start working on speed. And so I set the goal of sub 3 hours in my mind, and then I realized it was a Boston qualifier. So, like, that was the time for my age group. So I thought, that's awesome. Two birds with one stone. I liked the idea of sub 3, and I could qualify for Boston. And I guess everyone wants to go to Boston. But I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure I'll do it someday, but after I set my PR, I qualified, and then there's like a record number of entries for whatever year I qualified for, and so they moved the time by 5 minutes, so it was like 2:55 for my age group after I'd already set it and qualified. So I didn't make it in. Whatever. I'll probably try again at some point. In fact, I'm running a marathon later this year, and I want to run 2:45 or sub 2:45. But anyways, the point being, like, I got into this with a kind of interesting mindset where it's like, well, I can absolutely run a marathon. How fast can I run it? And so I just started doing a lot of more tempo workout, speed type of stuff. So the way that season went is I was doing this running streak where I was running at least 2 miles every single day, so I didn't really have an off day. My easy days or rest days were just 2 miles. But what I would do is I would do speed work on Tuesday and a little bit on Saturday when I was running my long run. And the other runs were just completely like easy runs, like zone 2. So on Tuesdays, what I would do, Tempo Tuesdays, there's this group in town, the St. George Running Center, that puts this on. And so I started running with them, and we kind of all did our own thing. They would kind of prescribe a workout and people would do it. I just kind of went there, would warm up for 2 miles, and then would just kind of like run my own speed workout, which was typically something like running at race pace for a couple miles. Sometimes I would do like 2 by 1, like 2 miles, mile recovery, 1 mile at that pace, or I would do like a 4-mile stint at race pace, and then I would have easy runs throughout the week. But Saturday was the fun one, because I'm in St. George and I ran the St. George Marathon, so I could do the course, and I would do it with a couple friends. And we would like maybe have 15 miles, and then I would pretty much get the prescription of what the workout would be from Aaron Metler, who's won the race several times and is incredibly fast. I think his PR is like under 2:17, something like that, I believe, maybe under 2:18, can't remember. And he would just basically tell me what he was doing, and I would do it. I would do it at my own pace. So a lot of the times that would look like maybe warming up for 5 miles, and then doing like what we would call it was a 4 by 3 by 2. Or I'd run 4 miles at rate, like the pace I was looking for, so like 6:50 or faster, depending on the pace, well, or slower, just depending on the incline, but race pace for marathon. And so around 6:50, run 4 miles, mile recovery, run 3 miles at race pace, mile recovery, run 2 miles at race pace, and then cool down for 2 miles or whatever. And so as we went throughout the season, we built up, and I think it started with a 10-mile long run, no tempo, 11-mile with 2 miles of tempo, things like that. And it worked out for me. That race was just absolutely incredible. It was freezing at the top, but that's the racer struggle starting in the morning. And so we basically run down the freeway to the finish line. And it just went really well for me. Like that day was something else, and I even had a little bit of push in me towards the end, which was awesome. Just really cool, fun experience. I think the St. George Marathon, just as a side note, in general, from like a race perspective, is a great event. And they got the shuttles that get you up there, and the fueling is, I mean, I do my own fueling, but they got great aid stations. They have a band that plays towards the end of the race, like a mile and a half or a mile from the finish. The post race, like snacks and drinks and recovery stations and things like that, have always been really good. It's just overall a fun race and incredibly beautiful because you get to run past all these mountains as you're running down towards the finish line. So it went really well for me. I remember kicking towards the end and feeling a cramp, so it kind of slowed me down, but that was like with a tenth of a mile to go. I had trained really hard and worked really hard on my nutrition and figuring out what worked for me. And so, yeah, it's a great race. It's a very fast one, and so a lot of downhill. So you have to know how to handle the downhill and do a lot of downhill training. But it was just a great race. I love the pictures from it, and I plan on doing that same race this October and trying to break 2:45. So yeah, that's my race experience. If you're looking for a good race to do, St. George Marathon all the way. I think it's worth the travel. Great city. I mean, I've lived here for 13, 14 years, and I don't plan on going anywhere. So if you like running content, my name's Reese Jones. That's what this channel is about. I'm trying to help people learn from my mistakes, maybe set PRs, maybe win races and course records. So if you like that kind of stuff, that's what I'm here for. So I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.